being able to problem solve is very important in the creative field. I've never really hired or done well with people that think they got it all figured out.
How would you describe your company culture?
It's awesome. I don't know. It's cool. It's a dope company.
That's cool. I love it. First of all, Julian, thank you so much for joining me for this session. I'm really excited to talk with you about INDIRAP, about your role, about your team, about internships. We've got a whole bunch of things to discuss today. But maybe first off, why don't you just introduce yourself? Like, tell everybody who you are.
I'm Julian Tillotson, founder and CEO here at INDIRAP. I started INDIRAP in 2013. I was kind of freelancing before that. The idea kind of came from, marrying, the new school of content and YouTube with, corporate America, which at the time was just a bunch of boring content. So we kind of we called it the fine line between cool and corporate. And we really just started working with a lot of, at the time it was tech companies, hospitality brands. We worked with a few restaurants at the time. But since then we've worked with, probably over 1,000 brands. We've worked in 46 states, every kind of industry imaginable. I mean, I got crazy stories. We've been in factories in the desert. We've worked with, all kind of manufacturing brands, some of the big, the Hyatts, the Marriotts of the world, cannabis brands, like all across. So it really keeps things interesting here. It's never the same thing. We don't do the niche down. We don't just work with dentists. We don't just work with, ad agencies and things like that. So it's kind of one of the cool things about, kind of what we do. And we work across content strategy, content creation piece, as well as the distribution side of content. So kind of full funnel, full service for our clients.
Yeah. And so you've been at this for 13 years, right? So you came into content creation and content production probably right when it was just starting to pick up and before everybody was in on it, realizing, hey, we really need this for our business. We need, to be pumping out a lot of content for what we do. How did you see that trend in the early stages? Was it something that you saw like, hey, this is going to be happening, or you just did what you were good at and it just happened to be a wave that was, headed in the right direction?
It's kind of weird, man. I got my first camcorder when I was 13 years old. And I was just filming me and my buddies, skating. And, as I got older, we were going to parties and DJing and graffiti and all kinds of things like that. And I was in film school, but then after that, I kind of went into sales and finance and kind of put my camera down because at the time it was like either go to Hollywood or do music videos and and I was kind of like, So I went into sales and finance and I really learned talking business, finance, how to talk to business people, corporate culture, all that kind of thing. I got into real estate, did a bunch of that. And then 2010 came around and I start picking up this camera thing again. I was like, let me get back into this. Is kind of cool. YouTube had came out. And then again, it just came to me. It was like, I work with a lot of these corporate brands. I kind of know these guys and they sell great products, but their marketing is corny. And, at the time it was all about millennials and marketing to millennials, So I'm like, all right, let me go. I know how to go pitch these guys. And I also know how to make things look cool without taking away from what they're doing. And then that's kind of how it happened. I mean, it didn't all start with cool, sexy shoots. I was doing weddings to pay the rent. I was shooting whatever. I remember shooting veterinary clinics, like 3 hours away, making like $150. So I didn't really care. I did whatever it took because for me, it was like, okay, let me build this portfolio. I'm going to take this portfolio and go show it to X company and get them to pay big money for what I'm doing. And that's kind of how I started. It was 2014 here in Chicago. There was a big tech boom. Everybody had an app and everybody was creating this, and it was the big app boom, the software boom. So I was kind of here for that, and that really kind of catapulted us into a bunch of other things. Just because again, we're working with like accelerators like Techstars. You work with a cohort. There's 14, 15 brands in there. You start working with them. They introduce you to people, and that's kind of how I started to get out there and really build the INDIRAP brand.
And this business is so much word of mouth, I'm sure, just from somebody having a good experience and then wanting to connect to you or wanting to support another business that they know, or sharing your contact. Now, you went to school for film production, actually. Is that correct?
Yeah, I majored in film and I minored in graphic design. I went to Columbia College in Chicago.
And do you feel like that was helpful for you in starting this brand? Did you feel like it was necessary for you in starting your business?
In a way, I mean, when YouTube came out, that changed everything. So
Yeah.
I can't necessarily, it was kind of like, I understood, again, I had been screwing around with film cameras and video cameras for a long time. And I knew the power in a camera and I knew what I could do with it. And I knew people like seeing themselves on camera and people like seeing themselves look cool. But film back in the early 2000s versus 2010, I mean, it was it was like the Wild West. There was no, and even like you said, there in 2012, the word content creator was barely a thing, dude. Like a lot of this stuff didn't exist. Like there were no reels. There
It
was
was
no
just getting started.
real, yeah, it was like the infancy of everything. You know what I'm saying? Like I remember some of these YouTubers just coming out. You know, I remember interviewing Casey Neistat at Tech Week here in Chicago, and people didn't even really know who he was yet.
What
So
an OG.
yeah, the OG of YouTube. So like, it was a different ballgame. Yes, I learned how to talk film, and I met some cool people, but in terms of like what we're doing now, it was just getting out there and getting experience under my belt.
You learned a lot at school, but you didn't feel that it was necessarily relevant to the times that you graduated into.
I mean, look, I was probably the last school of cutting film, like with a razor blade and taping it back together. Like I shot my final on 16 millimeter film.
Amazing.
You know what I'm saying? When I remember when SD cards were first getting, like, people were like, film versus this. It was that whole thing, kind of like what people talk AI. It was just a technological shift. I mean, the iPhone wasn't even out yet. What did the iPhone come out like 08 or something?
Yeah, I think it came out around 09, 08, 09.
Yeah, so like when college for me, that's mid 2000s. It's like two different planets. When I was in versus when I started this, it was just a different kind of world.
Do you think that that's a generic problem? Do you think that students who are graduating from university are graduating with latent information, with things that are not relevant to the moment that they're graduating to? Or do you think that that was very specific, at least for you, was that specific just to that time that so much technological shift was happening?
This is one of the big conversations I have with the interns that we host here at INDIRAP. It's like, I think you learn the talent, you get taught the talent very well, right? The business side of things, though, is what I think lacks. The business side of being a creative, especially now, there's so many different lanes you can take. You can go work at an agency, you can be a freelancer, you can, do gig kind of things. You can start your own company. Which route you take, and with each one of those routes, there's a different business mindset and different type, set of skills that comes with those. And I don't think that you can't really learn a lot of that in a film specific degree. I just don't think that's part of what they teach.
Right.
I could be wrong in certain schools. But that's the stuff that I had to learn the hard way by just, hey, how do I put together an invoice? How do I send a proposal? How do I send this email? What should I say to somebody at this corporation versus this like startup person? Or I had to navigate all that myself. I definitely didn't get that taught to me in a school environment. I have to just, school of hard knocks kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, you've had a really impressive client list, and I think that you mentioned some of them, and you mentioned the fact that you've had over 1,000 clients at this stage, which is pretty incredible. Just looking at your website, you can see some of the top names: LinkedIn, Accenture, Hyatt, Lyft, Sotheby's. What are some of the clients that how did you get to that level of getting clients at that stage? Was it something that happened slowly over time? Was it rapid because you were really excelling at what you were doing? How'd you reach that stage?
I attribute a lot of that is just to the fact that I put really good customer service and taking care of people first. I don't really lead. I always tell people, like, we shoot great videos with our eyes closed at this point. I don't lead with that. With so many content creators out here, a lot of brands have ran through one or two or three different, whether it's website people or video people, and although they might shoot an amazing video, their customer service is terrible. Working with them is like walking through broken glass. So for me, it was always like, if I can provide them an amazing experience through the ideation phase, with my creative direction phase, obviously on site with my team, post-production, and that's kind of what I focus on. I think it's our process. It's the fact that we get things done for people quickly, in an urgent fashion so that they can run their businesses and grow with the content that we create. They're not waiting 2 months, 3 months for content. They get a first cut from us in 7 to 10 days after we wrap, some even faster. And that's the piece that brands remember, or people that we work with remember. So when they're out at dinner and somebody's like, "Oh, who shot that video?" "Oh, they were great to work with. Here's that." That's really how I got to, I'll say Hyatt, for example. I was working with 2 bloggers, and they brought us in to shoot some content for them. This is when Virgin Hotel in Chicago, the first Virgin Hotel location. And we did really bang up work for them. And I met the director of brand and sales and marketing there. When she left Virgin, she took us with her to the Kimpton brand. She left Kimpton, she took us over to the Hyatt brand. She took us to another brand. And in all of those transitions, we met those teams within those brands. They introduced. So it's kind of like a spiderweb effect. Yeah. I got that person, I'm still working with her 10 years. We've been working together like 11 and 12 years at this point. And it's because she knows that when she's sitting with, the CEO of a company or, the marketing team, and they're putting a plan together, they know that we're going to execute at the highest level, and that's going to make her look amazing. So that's kind of what we focus on, is that piece. It's the process and the customer service piece, which I would say that 90% of content people, content creators, creatives as a whole don't focus on. They really focus on the thing, which is the great website or the great video or the great photos. But if it's hard to work with you, or you're slow to respond, or your communication is kind of lagging, they'll remember that over the video, over what you delivered.
Yeah, I hear 2 things that you've said in there, which I think are truths across many businesses and are also truths just in general in life, which is that the 2 pieces that I pulled from that was really the core of it is communication and relationships. I'll start with relationships. The fact that you are able to get to these different clients is because of deep relationships that you've built over time. And they're not something that you can just go and transact overnight, at least not to the scale and to the number of clients that you're talking about, right? And to the depth that you're talking about. And the second is communication. I think that this is something that agencies struggle with a lot in general, and people in general struggle with, is being great communicators. And that's really what customer service comes down to, is it's partly delivering on what you're communicating on, but it's also just being clear and being able to say, here are the expectations, and here's when we'll get it to you. And, oh, by the way, we have an update, and do you need anything from us? And, all these little pieces that make people feel like, okay, I'm at ease, I'm in good hands, and I want to work with these people. Yeah. Do you feel that experience for yourself? And how do you actually look for that in your talent? How do you look for that in people that you're looking to hire?
I think that's 100% true. I think being a good communicator is a key skill. I think that needs to be focused on now more than ever, with people not communicating as much and being on their phones and all this kind of stuff and thinking that communication is just like this. It's not. It's really a lot more than that. It's, facial expression. It's all these things. And, I learned a lot of that being in sales, cold calling, door knocking. I did all that kind of stuff. I did MLM, multi-level marketing, all that kind of stuff. So, I was face to face, hand to hand. I really, having to read a room. And I think that's super important. And when I hire, I look for that over talent. I can teach a talent fairly easily. Like, you can go on YouTube and learn most things, right? Like I said, anybody can pick up a camera or editor. But when I put you in front of a client, you need to be able to carry on that same energy that I have, and that the excitement they have for the project, into every stage of what we deliver. The creative, the on-site team I have, my editors, like Chris, who you've met. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I met you through. Yeah. He communicates directly with our clients. So at a lot of agencies, what happens is there'll be an account manager, and all the creative has to go through them and then go to the client. And I always saw that as a way to just kind of screw up communication a bit, or it's like middleman kind of thing.
Like playing telephone.
Yeah. And it also adds like an extra day or two in between, like just a direct, like just send an email, get what you need, and move the project along. So with anyone I hire, or, even when I do have interns here, I talk a lot. I can talk to anybody. I try to just learn about them. What are they into? Hey, what do you like? What do you want to learn the most? I try to instill that in my team and anyone else that comes, through INDIRAP, just to communicate well and really just be open to learning. And, if there's no dumb questions, ask a dumb question. Let's talk about it. That's kind of my attitude, because that's how I learned. I didn't know anything. Nobody, I didn't have a mentor. YouTube wasn't as robust as it was back then. I just had to figure it out.
Hey, that's really cool. And it's actually pretty unique in a mentor to have that type of, and in a leader to have that type of skill set, I think, especially for juniors, especially for interns coming in, somebody who's really open and just willing to hear questions and be engaged with the team at all levels. And I think that's a lot of what I wanted to say this generation, not necessarily this generation. This is what a lot of graduates who are coming out of school, trying to understand the industry, trying to understand how to get their foot, in it and get started, need and crave, is just a bit of support and guidance and direction without so much hierarchy and without so much bureaucracy within the team. And that's one of the benefits of working on a small team, a fairly small team like yourselves, is being able to be close knit with everybody.
It's extremely important. And that's the first thing I say when, interns come to INDIRAP is like, I am very communicative. You can ask me anything. Hey, let's go. What do you want? If I'm going to get coffee, hey, you want a muffin? All right, cool. I'll get you. It's what I do those other things, because I just find that in 2026, a lot of people aren't used to that. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people are just kind of closed off, and, they're on their phones, and I'm like, let's talk. Let's, come over here. What do you want to learn here? What do you want to do? Let's look at your website. How can we fix your website? What do you want to come to set one day? That's just me. I'm just like, what do you want to do here? So, and they get a lot out of that. I can see, like, when they first come in versus some of those experiences, they just open up and just blossom. And I can see that's kind of, and that's why I like this. That's why I like ArtBound. It's like, I give and I do what I wish I had. I wish I had someone to, like, but it wasn't my journey. But if I can help somebody skip 2 or 3 levels that I had to go to get to where they need to be, that's what I'm here for.
That's great. Okay, so let's jump into the team a little bit. Talk to me about the team. Tell me, what does the structure look like? What does the setup look like? How many people you got on your team? Tell me about it.
Yeah, so there's me, there's Lydia Smith, who's our creative director. Lydia's been all of my team has been with me minimum 8 or 9 years. Wow. Like long term, like most. Peter's been with me 11 years. Peter met me when I was living in a 1-bedroom in Uptown, and I didn't even have a car at the time. So there's me, Chris, who runs our post-production and any editors. Lydia's in creative. Peter's on-site production. Deepu Thomas does our media buying and things like that. And I work with a photographer, Chris Costoso. And in addition to them, so those are, full-time. And then I work with a number of subs across everything, depending on how the job is. We do jobs all over the country. So sometimes we can't make it out to New York because we have a shoot here. I have a team in New York I can call to kind of work on stuff, send us the footage back. We're chopping up stuff here all the time at the office. So I would say I probably have 20 to 30 subcontractors across the country that I work with on a lot of on-site stuff. But most of our editing and things like that happens right here in-house. Yeah, it's my core team I've worked with for a very long time. We're very tight-knit. When you have a team for that long, it's kind of like telepathic. We kind of just know what to do, what the expectations are. We all know what the end goal is, and it gets a lot easier over time.
How do you think you kept team for that long? You've been, you've had people for like you said, between 8 to 11 years, right? How'd you keep people around for that long?
Because I always say the chef eats last. I'm not a greedy person. There's no hierarchy here. People can people can bring ideas to the table. Nobody's going to like laugh at a dumb question. Like there's none of that. Like we have our Monday meeting every week, and like we run through the entire pipeline. We talk about problems with clients. We talk about what's going well, what things in our process we need to change. What are the issues that are going on right now with AI, and how do we deal with this? Like it's all an open conversation. And I'm eye to eye with my entire team. It's not like I'm never in the glass office with my feet kicked up. And I think also is because they've seen me go from where we started to now. And I could hop in, and I've been an editor. I've been done creative. I've done sales. I can shoot. Yeah. Like I've done all the things. It's not like I got into content for the money or the business side of all this stuff now. I've been here. And I think there's a level of respect and just like collaboration that I offer as a CEO founder that you might not find in other places.
I think that what you're saying is also really important in the sense that in order to be a good leader, you have to have done the different tasks that you're leading. You
Yep.
don't have to have, but it really becomes very useful if you've done all those tasks. You know how to manage it. You know what their problems are. You've done it before. You know, you're not pointing fingers around and telling people what to
Yeah.
do without having experienced it yourself. And then they also trust that, hey, you know, you've been here before too, and you understand the challenges that I'm going through.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't imagine doing what I do with never have worked in the industry before, and I'm just like some outside person that I couldn't imagine.
You've talked about it already, but how would you describe your company culture if you had to kind of sum it up?
Man, it's a vibe here. It's family. It's awesome. I don't know. It's cool. It's a dope
That's
company,
cool. I love
dope
it.
brand. Yeah, it's cool. Like everybody that comes in here loves it here. You know, you just feel like I think the vibe here is when you come in here, you just feel like you can be as creative as you want. You know, you can be a real
Right.
creative. Nobody's judging you. You can talk however you want to talk. People come in like, what should I wear? I'm like, I don't care. Just
Yeah.
wear whatever the hell you're comfortable wearing. Like, I don't, it's not, I'm not worried about those kinds of things. You can come in here as you are, any walk of life, and feel at home. And that's kind of, whether it's interns or team members or like clients, like that's
Mm.
just the vibe. I'm the same person talking to you as I am talking to a client or talking to,
Yeah.
I've gotten myself to a place where I can do that. I don't have to, you know, change clothes, as they say, depend on the situation. And I try to let, again, especially in interns, never been to an office or an agency or something like they have all these expectations maybe. And it's like, no, just you do what you got to do. Be creative. If you need something, let us know. And that's just, again, I've created the thing that I wish my, 17-year-old self could have had. Like,
Right.
wow,
Yeah.
that's all this is. For me, it's like, I'm just doing this for my younger self,
Yeah.
the stuff that he would have thought is cool. You know what I mean? So
And what's the office setup like? You have separate offices that people are working in, or is it one big open space? Where do you sit?
it's, yeah, it's one like where I'm sitting right now. There's like, it's like I have these custom big desks and there's 4 people here. There's another like 60s here. The editors have their own little suite, so they can zone out in there, 2, 3 computers. We have a space back here that was a conference room. I think when you first came to the office, there was a
Yeah.
conference room, but after COVID, there were no more conference rooms. So we kind of turned it into like a content space. So we shoot a lot of content in there for YouTube and ads and things like that. And yeah, there's like a kitchenette back here. We're right in the West Loop. So it's just hottest neighborhood in Chicago, tons of restaurants, tons of all kinds of things. We're also right next to UIC, University of Illinois.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of, students and things that run around here. It's pretty cool, man. I love it over here. The office is cool. And like I said, there's always music playing too. There's always music streaming in the office. I can't work
Who
inside.
chooses?
It's you know what it's connected to my SoundCloud and it just randomizes like years of music. So it might be like house music, hip hop music, some techno, some jazz. It's all kinds of stuff just like randomly playing throughout the office. So you never know, but it's a vibe.
Let's talk about hiring. So how do you actually hire good people? We've talked about some of the things that are needed. I mean, we haven't talked too much in detail, but when you're hiring people, what do you look for? How do you make a good hire?
I mean, the first thing I usually look at is like, let's see the portfolio, portfolio website, just to kind of see what the vibes are. What do you do? Does this fit within what we're doing? If it doesn't, what kind of skills are you utilizing over here that could potentially work here, kind of thing. So that's first, but second and most importantly is a great personality and a great just like hunger to be better, to learn. I don't expect everybody to come in and just be this like home run hitter, but I expect everyone to want to learn and be better. I've never really hired or done well with people that think they got it all figured out because I still don't have it all figured out. And I
Mm.
think that when you put yourself in a box like that, you're unable to learn and be a better person. And you also don't allow yourself to make mistakes. So making mistakes and failing is part of any job. If you're in the creative world and you're dealing with people, humans, somebody could wake up on the wrong side of the bed and you got a problem on your hands because they're going to take it out on you. You know what I mean? Or they don't like what you sent them and like every day there's problems. There's no real perfect days. So, you wake up, and whether it's, dealing with a client, or, you're an editor, and you send your edit and they hate what got put together. And you got to kind of be able to talk them through that process to get them exactly what they want. Being able to problem solve is very important in the creative field, and communicate, like you said. So again, the talent piece is good. I want to see the portfolio. I think at this point in the game, I can x-ray resumes and things like that. I don't necessarily hire based solely on that. I do tell people, make sure your resume, your website, and your portfolio is tight, because people are going to judge you against whoever else is applying. They want to see, make sure you got a good headshot, blah, blah, blah. The communication piece, and you cannot be averse to problems, mistakes, and failures, because you're going to deal with that. And if you allow yourself room to go through, I'm not saying you screw up all the time, that's not good, but just understand that in learning something new, you're going to have to fail. I know a lot of people, they make a mistake and they'll hide it, and then it becomes a bigger problem in the future.
Right.
And that's a no. You can't do that. You got to be comfortable coming to the team. It's a team effort,
Right.
Working in a team environment. So bring it to light so everybody can help you solve their problem, so we can all be better immediately, instead of 6 months down the line, something blowing up that we didn't know about.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I look for.
You said that something that is really difficult is if somebody's not able or willing to learn, because I feel like they've got it all figured out. And this probably goes hand in hand with problem solving skills. If you're willing to learn and try things and work on things, you're going to end up solving more problems, than
Yep.
if you're really a closed box. But how do you filter for that in the early stages? Or do you just hire people on and realize sometimes, like, hey, this person is not really, they're not really learning, they're not really open to learning the way that we thought they were? What are some of the telltale signs for you early in the interview process?
I can say that, I probably only made a bad hire, in 13 years, probably like 3 times, where the person really sold me a lie, and they got in here and the team was like, what the hell's going on here? What is this? And then it didn't work out. But, I would say that I'm a pretty good judge of character. And over time, I've gotten better at just asking probing questions, just to kind of understand what you are, who you do, what you do. But I think the telltale signs are, if someone's like, yeah, I've worked here and this is the way we do it, and this is kind of my process, and it's said in a way that this is the only way that I'm willing to do it.
Right.
That means you're not a team player. That means that when something comes up that calls for another workflow or plan of action, you're not going to be open to that. And that ruins team dynamic. It also, if you're not able to take constructive criticism, red flag. If you're a creative, your work will be criticized. But you have to look at it as one or two things. One, it's the client's brand. You need to give them what they want. You don't have control over what they want. And number two, it's a way for you to learn how to get better. On the field, everybody's not going to like your first cut. Everybody's not going to like the way you shot something. Use that to become better. So if you can't do those two things, again, you're stuck in a box, and people aren't going to want to work with you, because they're going to feel like, oh, if I say something to this, person, they're going to feel a certain type of way. And like at INDIRAP, I get criticized. I criticize myself. Like if I screw someone, like, yeah, I screwed that up. In the future, this is how I'm going to do it. And I say that publicly. And like you asked earlier, why my team's still here? That's why. I'm not perfect. I don't want to be perfect. Entrepreneurship's all about screwing up, making mistakes, failure, and getting better. One thing at a time. So like, you have to be able to do that. The constructive criticism piece, I'd say that's number one for me. If you can't take constructive criticism, you're going to have a problem, not just in work life, but just in life. Everybody's not going to like you or what you say or your beliefs, and you have to be able to accept that.
Well, let me actually take it back to portfolios. You were talking about portfolios and how that's the first thing that you'd look at for an applicant. Can you walk us through a little bit of what you see in a portfolio? I think a lot of participants that come through our program, and students who are still putting their portfolios together, are trying to understand what is an employer going to see and what exactly are they looking for. Like, walk us through your eyes when you open up a portfolio. What are some of the things you look for and look at?
obviously, I have a design eye, aesthetic kind of thing. So, does it look cool? Depending upon what you're doing, if you're building websites or, photographer or film or whatever, I just kind of want to see what your eye is for. Do you have do you understand the basics? Do you understand, composition, contrast, lighting and things like that? And then what did you do here? Like a lot of times I'll see a film portfolio and it's just like, hey, I did all this stuff, but it's like, okay, it's, 6 videos here. Did you shoot, edit, produce, so clarity.
What was your role?
I look for. I want to see you, like have a good headshot. I think people, I post pictures all day long to social media, but you go on a website, it's like nothing. I'm like, who am I looking at? Who am I talking to? So you have to look at your portfolio and your website and all those things. Like you are telling potential collaborators, employers, whoever, a story about you. And that's how you have to look at it. It's storytelling. Storytelling is just not limited to the work that you do. Say you don't have the best portfolio, but you're able to tell a story about what your ambitions are and what you want to do and what you want to build towards. That could inspire someone to bring you in for an interview. I'm like, okay, I see that. I have a position available to where you can grow into that person. The storytelling piece, like I said, obviously if you do great work, that's a plus. But I've hired people here that barely had any work. Now what got me to get them in here? Persistency, following up, harassing me, emailing me like, hey, I really like to work. That follow-up thing that's something else that stands out because, nowadays anybody can send a portfolio link, anybody can send a resume, but to really that follow-up is really where, they'll tell you in sales, follow-up's where the money's made.
Right.
You got to follow up with people. Somebody could be busy. You could have went to spam, whatever. Yeah. So following up and showing that's a sign that you're a go-getter and that you're really serious about, the position you're applying for. But yeah, I mean, I think portfolio is important. I like to see variety. I like to see different types of clients. But I also understand, you're in college. You haven't had a lot of chances to do all kinds of stuff. A lot of college, final videos, a lot of it kind of looks the same. And I'm like, okay, I get that. I remember those days kind of thing. So I take it with a grain of salt. I don't expect somebody to be Steven Spielberg or somebody right out of college.
Yeah. I
don't think I've ever seen that. If I did, fantastic. But 9 times out of 10, I'm looking for potential. What is their potential as a creative? And number 2, what's their attitude towards collaborating with a team like?
Where do you actually hire from? Are you hiring mostly? Are you posting jobs online and then getting 100 applicants? Do you have now just a broad network of people that that you're pulling from? Where do you source people from?
Man, it's a lot of it's network now, because I'll ask somebody like, hey, do you know somebody here that can do X, that? I do a lot of things on Upwork, but if I'm hiring full time, I usually go to LinkedIn. The problem with LinkedIn though, for me, is that if you put out a post, you'll get out 200 resumes in like 10 minutes. It's insane. It's like, so, and then you got to comb through them. So I haven't done that in a minute, but I do, again, my network, and I always have people coming looking for work. I might get 3 or 4 resumes emailed directly to me by way of referral, or somebody just went to the website and just emailed the info at email. So I would recommend that for people too, go directly to the agency or the client you want to work with and just hit them up. Don't rely solely on LinkedIn or Indeed, or I don't even know if Monster's a thing. Yeah, LinkedIn used to be LinkedIn is extremely overwhelming now.
They made it too easy to apply is my feeling.
Yeah.
As an employer, is my feeling. They made it too easy to apply. So when we put out a job, I'll get so much junk applications that the people are not interested in the role. They're not related to the role in any way. And you just have to filter out so much before you can get to good people that you might end up filtering out a lot of people accidentally who were kind of good, and you really got to keep a sharp eye to make that happen. Yeah. One thing I tell students a lot in workshops that we do is to try to do something unusual, because you want to actually stand out, right? So even as you said, emailing info at is already enough unusual, or persistence is already enough unusual. I joke with students now, I'm like, mail your resume to the hiring manager, physically,
Yeah,
or like
yeah.
go show up at the office and knock on the door and say hello, do something that really stands out because people are going to remember you after that.
Or
Your
send a
resume
DM.
might not pass, but at least the person saw it. They're going to open
Yes.
that piece of mail and be like, oh, that's funny.
And that's the things that people remember. And like I just said, send a DM. You DM everybody else, DM the brand or the company or whoever, and obviously manicure your social, make sure everything's legit.
Yeah.
But you got to do more than just upload a resume to LinkedIn and cross your fingers. Like that's like par for the course. You got to really, if you really want to do something, I always put it to them like, and I say this about video content and things like that, but I'll say it about applying that anywhere in life. If you have a product in Whole Foods, would you rather have it on one shelf or 20 shelves?
Mm.
What are the opportunity? What are the chances you're going to sell more product if you got it on 20 shelves? So with your resume, with your portfolio, you need to put it in as many places as possible because that 10x's or 20x is your odds of getting what you really want.
I do say though that I think students confuse that with apply to as many places as possible, and I think that shouldn't be the case. So, and correct me if I'm wrong. It doesn't matter of opinion, but I think what ends up happening is that students go and apply to 100 jobs on LinkedIn because they know the chance of getting an interview is 1 in 100. And so they go and hit apply to everything, and instead, if that same person took that same amount of time to make an edited video of why they want to work for INDIRAP and then send it to
100%.
you, like they'd probably be hired for an internship on the spot, right? Because you're like, oh, okay, cool. You made something for me because you want to work for me. That's great,
Yep.
and the same amount of energy just gets you exponentially more value out of it just by doing something that's more focused in and for fewer people, but hitting that specific target in multiple ways, like you mentioned, and getting, that multiple shelf analogy that you mentioned is like getting into
Yeah.
that one company in multiple angles. Yeah.
Yeah, you almost have to put yourself in employer's shoes as well. Think about what they're running a company or whatever. They get hit with all these emails on LinkedIn or whatever. Like, how can you infiltrate all of the attention that's being sucked away from them throughout the day? So you have to go above and beyond those, the LinkedIn's and email and the resumes and all that kind of stuff. Like, if you really want to go after something and work, put in the effort. Like 5 touch points. Like you said, a video would be insane. I don't think I've ever got anything like that, but like good portfolio, great attitude, a video, an email, a DM on LinkedIn. Like you start to see the same person's name 4 or 5 times. Like, let me see what this, what's going on here. Let me set up a call with them, kind of thing. You kind of skip the line over people that are just doing like the lazy way, which is,
Yeah.
apply.
Yeah. What type of internships do you have at IndieRap? Talk to me about, the types of interns you usually take on, or the types of roles, sorry, internships that you have.
A lot of like video editors. We have a lot of video editors that come through here. Photography, we've had great photography students, graphic designers. I would love to have some, we haven't had yet, like creative director, people that are interested in like creative or art direction, like more that creative layer between production and sales.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. Obviously on-site production, going to set. But even if you are one of those things, a photographer, editor, I almost if you're editing in here all day, it's like, all right, you want to go to set one day? Boom, let's go to set. Just to kind of give you experience around different things. Where like, I'm sitting here, most days on sales calls. So I'll be like, hey guys, I got a sales call with Hyatt. Sit around and kind of understand what a sales pitch or like a creative meeting looks like with one of these big brands, because that's something people don't even know what that looks like.
Right.
What does that even sound like? How do you do a sales call? How do you talk to a corporate marketing team? Like, so I try to expose interns to as many things as possible, regardless of what aspect of production or creative that they're interested in.
Mm. Yeah, they're learning a lot probably through that exposure, and that's filtering into the work that they're doing and understanding even just the client needs. Like, oh, now I understand better what the clients are asking for on those calls and why we need to make X, Y, and Z output, right? In small ways.
Yes.
So let's talk about internships. Tell me about the different types of internships that you have at IndieRap. What are interns actually doing during the internship? You mentioned some different types of roles. We've seen a wide range of involvement level within internships across different types of companies. Obviously, every company runs a little bit differently. It's different choice of whether it's going to be more observative or really hands-on with clients. Tell me the arc of the internship and ideally kind of what an intern is doing across 3 months or 6 months of being with you.
Yeah, I'll talk about, editors since, we do host a lot of editors here. Our team is out on site, 3, 4, 5 days a week, and there's a ton of footage. So when our team comes and, dumps footage on our hard drives and things like that, a lot of the very first thing that our post-production editors are doing is chopping that through that footage. We might do a shoot where it's like, we shoot 7 interviews. We might have 30 to 45 minutes worth of B-roll, and we need to have that cut down to a 3-minute piece. So cutting through all that footage and being able to see different cameras, how to line up footage, how to line up audio, how to cut narrative down, take out best takes and all that kind of thing, how to work with different types of footage, whether that's drone footage, Sony FX6, FX3, A7S3. We got a ton of gear here, so you're cutting through all kinds of stuff. So cutting that down and passing that along to one of our senior editors to actually arrange the footage and put it into that last 2 to 3 minute piece. So you're learning that entire workflow. In here we work on their PCs, but they're like gaming PCs. We run the entire Adobe suite, After Effects, Premiere. Chris runs a bunch of other stuff in here. So you're learning how to use all that software. You're learning workflows, file structures, how to organize, stay organized. All of our computers are networked, so you're able to work as a team together. So that's really on the post side. Again, sometimes I'm like, hey, let's go to set. So, coming to set as a PA on, a full day shoot. We had a shoot with they make these huge, the huge bowls and confect that they make chocolate. They melt big chocolate down and make it's a huge.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
They make the machines that huge candy makers use. Okay. And we had to do do these big recipe. It was a full day of production. So I just took interns with them, like, hey, you're coming and you're going to come hang out. I'm gonna put you on this camera. You hang out over here and keep us up to date with the production schedule. And just kind of I think you learn a lot when you're just thrown out of your element for a minute and you're just kind of all senses open, just trying to see what's happening and that kind of thing. And they have a ball. They have the best time, and I think they remember that. And they're learning all these skills, and they're seeing what a client looks like on set, and all these things. So again, like that, and then the sales part. I think no matter what you're doing, whether it's photography, shooting, editing, I always try to take time to teach you the front end as well as how to present yourself. Whether it's you're going to go into freelancer, whether you're going to, work for yourself, whether you're going to work in an agency, how do we paint the best picture of you yourself, whether that's with your portfolio and all that kind of thing, or, getting you a headshot here. What do you need? Let's see your website. Let me help you perfect your website. And then how do you talk to clients? The communication piece. You're learning how to talk to clients. You're learning how to interact with our team. You're learning how to talk to each other. And most importantly, you're in Chicago, you're in the West Loop, you get that, West Loop experience in one of the, greatest cities in the world. I would say no 2 days are the same here. Try to mix it up so that you can learn as much as possible in that 3, 4, 5, 6 month period that you're here.
Yeah. And it sounds like they're getting their hands into all sorts of different stuff from client work on day one to actually being able to see all different aspects of the team, which is great. I mean, that's really one of the best parts of an internship, is being able to have that understanding of what's the next step in my career after this. Like now I've seen all these different aspects, like is editing for me, or right. I just actually studied 4 years of film production and I thought I wanted to do editing, but I actually love sales all of a sudden. Like this is actually my world. Right. And it happens a lot, and that's the purpose of it. What actually makes a successful intern for you? Maybe more specific to the intern, level, what makes somebody really successful for you?
Just being a sponge and being open to learn. Yeah, I mean, that's number one. I think that's the whole point. I don't think an internship is for you to come in and you understand everything already, because then you don't learn anything.
Right.
I think, it's to be a sponge. And like you said, there are a lot of people that come through and it's like, I don't know if I want to do this. And now that I've done this, I want to do this now, or I want to go into this. And like, if you just thought you wanted to be an editor the whole time and you never try anything out, you might go many years and figure out that, I should have did this. So trying different things, being open to new things, and communicating, you know what I mean? Like, I did have an intern one time, not from ArtBound, from us. Guy came in here, he sat for 3 months, and I probably said 2 words to him. He just he didn't want to talk. And I'm like, all right, guys, introvert, doesn't want to, and that's fine. But I think he could have got so much more out of this experience if he just would have got out of his shell and just talked to the other interns, because there's usually 2 or 3 interns in here at a time. It's not just like one person. So, you got me, older millennials, you got, younger folks in here, you got Chris, and there's all kinds of people. And then you're in Chicago. So like, try something new, be a sponge, learn. Like, that's more important than anything else, so that you can walk out of here with a little bit more knowledge than you came in with, and not just around how to use the camera, how to edit, but how to communicate, what other aspects of creative you could potentially work in, what it's like to work in an agency, what it's like to work in a big city. Just absorb, be open, be a sponge, and have fun.
What are some of the work experiences that are not related to creative or not related to film production that you found have been really great backgrounds for interns or for juniors that are coming in
terms of them themselves, what backgrounds they would have?
Like if they've worked in, do you find that people who've had, work in hospitality tend to be really good for or more retail, or is there any specific thing that you feel like, hey, when I get students coming with this type of background, it really shines through in the way in which they work on the team?
Man, I think anybody that has worked in like a restaurant or a cafe or like retail, anything where when you're put into a situation where you're dealing with all kinds of different personalities in an 8-hour period in one shift. Those skills, for me, those skills took me further in life than any camera skill ever could have taken me. Because, in the long run, a lot of how your life, the direction that your life goes, it relies on the relationships that you're able to create. If you're in sales, or if you're, you make somebody a coffee and they're not happy, that stuff goes a very long way. And I found out that the interns that have had those experiences in restaurants, hospitality, door to door, so whatever it is, they really jump into the whole internship and making the most out of it for themselves.
A lot of those skills that we talked about earlier, customer service, communication, problem solving, they all come from that, right? So, or having the experience in that. So many of the participants that we chat with at this stage, what they really want is to get hired. They want to break through from that stage of getting the experience to be able to get hired to actually having a stable and just full-time job. For you, what are the ways that you've seen that interns can break through? I know that you've hired some interns before. How do you actually move from being an intern to getting hired within a company or within INDIRAP specifically?
I think it goes back to what I said earlier in terms of just like being a team player, be willing to learn. And usually, like, I'll go back to, we had a graphic designer and I still work with him. If you're great to work with and you make it easy for us to deliver the creative that you're helping us put together, and you're on time and you're able to get it done quickly and kind of have those professional skills baked in above and beyond being a good graphic designer. Like if I shoot you a text message, you get back to me. If I shoot you an email, you get right back to me. Now I can put you within our workflows that works along client timelines, and I can give you work. So I don't know if that makes sense, but that's kind of those are the best relationship I've had. I have actually 2 graphic designers. I have one that's in Indonesia that I still work with because she created I think this graphic right here is one of our main graphics that we use. Oh, actually both of these guys right here. If you go to our website, if you go to some of our proposals, like we use these graphics to this day. And, when I need to update them or create something with that same design language, I will only use her. For that. I got handwritten thank you letters from 3 ArtBound interns right behind me. So
That's awesome.
I take these relationships very seriously. I'm in contact with all of them, and I let them know, like, even if we don't work together, if you ever have questions or if you ever need someone just to bounce ideas off of, or how you should go about applying somewhere, they know that I'm a resource. They know that my team's a resource for them above and beyond any 3, 4, 5 month internship.
Amazing. That's cool that you've got some handwritten letters. I love it.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, whenever I'm feeling, believe it or not, whenever I'm having a bad day, if I'm feeling down, I'll look at that and I'll be like, okay, this is why I'm doing this.
Yeah,
To inspire the next
something
generation.
impactful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's important. It's more than just like, hey, this is a business, let's make a bunch of money. There's so much more to this than that, especially after you've been an entrepreneur for as long as I have. It's like, there's got to be something else, man. There's got to be, I get more joy out of seeing younger people, interns, just light up and learn, and like that light bulb moment, than anything else at this point.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think it's why we get so much joy out of doing what we're doing too, is it's nice to give people internships and get them placed, but actually getting those internships is really hard. And getting their foot in the door is really hard to understand. Okay, how do I now navigate these steps? And there's some areas I'm going to trip along the way, and what do I do now? And just really helping them to make sure, hey, you're on the right path, and this is a good direction for you. I think goes a really long way in their career. Let's go through a few quick fun questions. So, portfolio or personality?
Personality.
Cool. Degree or experience?
Experience.
Speed or perfection?
Speed.
Trend driven or timeless?
Timeless.
AI or human led?
Human.
Love it. Awesome. So just final question that I want to wrap up with. What's one thing students, looking to break into production should know at this stage to succeed? One piece of advice that you would give, if you had to boil it down to one?
I would say, especially earlier in your career, get ready to fail and make mistakes. There's not going to be one big move that's going to solve for everything for the rest of your life. Get your foot in the door, start doing projects, start getting experience, even if it's not exactly what you got to do. Even if you got to shoot weddings, for a while, even if you got to shoot like whatever, do whatever you have to do to start getting experience, because the experience comes from working with clients, no matter who they are. And those skills that you learn, even if it's not the dream job of working on some Netflix set, or, whatever, some content for some big Instagram influencer or YouTuber, those skills will take you far in life. You just have to start. Don't try to be overly perfect and land the dream job. I don't think that's not what heroes are made of, as far as creatives go. Creative heroes are people that started working. I'm sure you talk to a lot of people. Oh yeah, I worked over here and I worked over here, and then you met this person, and then you got this opportunity. Yeah. Opportunities just don't come to you at the bottom of the mountain. You have to start climbing. Yeah. And as you climb, your perspective changes, your outlook on things change, and then you can start to line yourself up for perfect opportunities. It's not going to happen at the early stage you're at right now. The piece that most interns miss is they just don't get started. They try to get the perfect job, just get in there, just do whatever, freelance, go work at this crappy YouTube or this Instagram company that needs you to do content for it. Like, who cares? Just do it. Go do it. As long as you can pay rent. I was taking the train 3 hours away to shoot 8 hours at a vet clinic to make $150 because I was shooting for Yelp. I was like doing gigs for Yelp. I was doing gigs off of Craigslist. Yeah. And some of these gigs were shady, man. You know what I mean? Just like, why am I shooting this? I felt stupid, but I was like, whatever, dude. I made $600. I shot one of my first, this was a 2-year situation for me, and I probably learned the most from this. There used to be a store called City Souls in Wicker Park in Chicago. I shot once a week. I made $200, and I would shoot like 30 shoe videos a week for this guy. And for me, it was like 30 videos, whatever. But that was like $200 a week. That was $800. I'm like, all right, that covers rent.
Yeah.
And then I can go and do whatever else. I can go shoot a wedding.
Like a little bit from here, a little bit from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't looking for like, oh, I'm going to get this big. I was just like, I'll take a little here, a little. And after a while, the experience I learned from that job and that guy inspired me so much to even do content for myself, to market myself. Because again, this was 2012. This was super early. I'm like, this dude's on to something.
Yeah.
This dude's dedicated, coming to work every week, doing shoe videos. Like, he's got a store. I'm like, shit. So just start working, man. Like, just do whatever and stop looking for this perfect job. It didn't exist for me until I figured out my own thing. And it took me 10, 12 years after college to start INDIRAP. I went in a totally different direction. I went and did sales and finance. I was a car salesman. I was a loan officer. I was doing real estate investment. Like, I was in a totally different universe for 10 years. But those skills allowed me to build where I'm at. And that's why I'm here 13 years later, when a lot of my peers who got in the game are nowhere to be seen.
Right.
So sometimes you got to go off the beaten path.
Yeah.
And not follow what everybody else is doing. It's super important, especially if you want to build something different that's timeless. Yeah. Trends come and go. If you're constantly chasing trends, you're going to be in trouble. As soon as that trend's over, you got to start all over and do something different. Just slow and steady wins a race, man. It's a real thing.
I love it. Awesome. Well, Julian, thank you so much for chatting with us. I really appreciate it. This was awesome. And yeah, I loved all the advice. And I'm sure it's going to be super useful for everybody that takes the opportunity and chance to watch it.
I hope so. I appreciate you all, man. Keep sending great interns. I'll keep returning a favor with great knowledge and fun experiences here. But yeah, thank you very much.
Cool.